Okay, today we are going to talk about an adventurer known as Mark Twain, original name Samuel Leghorn Clemens. This is a very, very known artist. He is a very humorous artist at that. So let's go ahead and begin the slide. In the early life of Mark Twain, he was better known as Samuel, but then began the name Mark Twain in his pen name. He was born on November 30th, 1835 in the tiny village of Florida, Missouri. He was the sixth child of John and Jane Clemens. Jane Clemens was the mom, John was the father. John Clemens later on died after some causes and personal issues that happened in his life, and then his mom went ahead and took over the family. Sam Clemens lived in Hannibal from the ages of 4 to 17. The town was situated upon the Mississippi River. Back then in the Mississippi River, this is where slavery was. This is where a lot of things happened within the Black African American cultures. Things that we all have been studying within our history lectures and little things like that. As a kid, he was not a stranger to this violence, as I was just talking about the slavery. He was a witness to a slave actually getting killed by his master at the age of 10. Now, with that being said, a 10-year-old should never have to endure such visual pain like that. That is something that will torment a child. But as a child, he seen that. And later on in life, he went ahead and took that and molded that into words, into powerful words, into a very, very humorous type thing. Now, as a child, he was very, very adventurous. He liked to do things. He liked to see things. He has seen things. But later on in life, maybe the mid-20s, Mark Twain had some struggles to his success. Twain had founded his nephew, Charles L. Webster, finally went belly up after the 10 difficult years of constant financial strain. Now, by this being his nephew, Mark Twain just thinks that I can help you. I can help you do better. So he puts himself in the situation with his nephew and nearly goes bankrupt. In 1896, while the author was still away on tour, Twain's 24-year-old daughter Susie Clemens died. She was a 24-year-old woman of Mark Twain, which he loved so much. This tore him down. Within the passages that they talk about within his biography, they say that he kind of went off. He didn't continue writing his books. He took maybe a month or two off just to have grievances about his daughter. This was one of the biggest deaths in the family, other than the father. So it was the father, then it was the daughter. Then in 1904, things got even worse when Twain's beloved wife, Livy, died after 2 years of illness. This is what he said: "I cannot produce Livy's face in my mind's eye." He wrote in his diary on July 1st, 1904, just a few weeks after her death. He also said in one of his books, "I never in my life able to reproduce a face. It's a curious infirmity. And now that I've realized it's a calamity." This is very deep. Now, he's talking to you about his wife. He wants to remember her face, but it hurts. This is a woman that he loved. This is a woman that he committed to. This is a woman that he thought that he was going to live his whole life with. But she was taken by illness from him. And it took him a couple years just to go ahead and realized that he no longer had that love, that compassionate person by his side to keep him going, to help him be stable, to help him sustain all the things that will come toward him. This is a couple of his struggles, but it made him a stronger person. Mark Twain had a lot of books. This is actually a picture of one of his books. It is a life of Mark Twain. Okay. Now, we are entering the golden pages. I have picked two books to talk about. The first book is Roughing It. This book was published in 1872. It's Twain's second book. It's a comedic romp through the Wild West with hilarious sketches of authors' misadventures. The book recounts Twain's flight from Hannibal, which is the town he lived in, 4 to 17, to the silver mines of Nevada at the outset of the Civil War. This was book number 1 out of book 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now, I also have picked the second book. The second book was number 6 on the list, and that is The Tragedy of Pudd'nhead Wilson and Those Extraordinary Twins in 1984, which it was published. This is an even more powerful and compelling book. This is a step beyond Huck's Finn Voyage, which was a very renowned book that Mark Twain made. It is an award winner, actually. Now, beyond Huck's Finn Voyage to Enlightenment with the taunt slave Jim, Roxy's tainted blood and terrible decision to switch racially mixed babies shortly after their birth to give her own child a clear path toward success and responsibility, Pudd'nhead's forensic clarity, the awful juxtaposition of good and evil, black and white, nature versus nurture are explored brilliantly by Mark Twain. Now, I'm just going to give you a little insight on the golden pages. We're going to go ahead and talk about Roughing It. It is a partially fictional account of Mark Twain's travel to Nevada Territory and to the California, his varied life there, colorful personalities he encountered, and his visit to the Hawaiian Islands. Interspersed throughout are factual and semi-factual journalistic reports as well as tall tales. The book covers Twain's stagecoach trip with his brother Orion Clemens, the newly appointed Secretary of Nevada Territory, from St. Joseph, Missouri to Carson City, Nevada. This was in the year 1861, months July to August. Twain's unsuccessful efforts to stake a timber claim and also was to prospect for silver. Now, within the tragedy of Pudd'nhead Wilson, it was written during this so-called dark period. Pudd'nhead Wilson was also written at a time when it became apparent that the reconstruction, the process of reintegrating the Confederate States into United States and trying to make a place for free slaves in the society had totally failed. Pudd'nhead Wilson itself is a bit messy in structure, but one of the major contributions to American literature is his use of dialect. His black characters display speech patterns and use punctuations that are often according to the linguistics, and fairly, they are realistic. Everything about the dialect is within the African American culture. Some of the white people that are down south are also a part of this dialect. I have cited sources right here about Pudd'nhead Wilson and also Roughing It, the two books that I chose to be the Golding books. Now, the contributions that Samuel Clemens, which known as Mark Twain, is considered to be one of the Americans' greatest humorists and writers. He is perhaps best known for his novels about boyhood life on the Mississippi River in the mid-19th century. The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, considered to be Mark Twain's greatest contribution to American literature, and The Adventure of Tom Sawyer, which is a very known book between middle school years, high school, and college, both of which are based in part on his adventures as a child along the banks of the Mississippi. He has an influential life that has persuaded young and old men and women to not be absent from the truth, but look at life for what it really is. Now, to wrap this presentation up, this is actually a picture of the book, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. Now, if you look closely, on the side it has timeless classics. This is one of the classics. When you have classics, you are put in a category with very, very, very renowned authors. You have very great journalism. You have a time where you were very complex. You had credibility. You had responsibilities of getting this book out on time and making sure that the purpose and the summaries of this book can relate to all. People can understand it. People can quote it. People can read this book and relate to it and like it and actually put effort into doing blogs about it, writing about it. This was one of the books that made that. Thank you for listening to my presentation about Mark Twain.